Hello and welcome back to Smash Hit Sports. It lived up to the hype every game, the entire time slot. Florida State, Clemson, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Alabama, Ole Miss, LSU, Arkansas was an unbelievable game. We had some good late night action. I know a lot of people were up late watching Indiana and Akron go into quadruple overtime. But in all seriousness, this last week's college football slate is why we watch the sport. The storylines, the narratives, the excitement, the actual gameplay on the field, all of it was incredible. I mean, it was one of my favorite weeks of college football I've had in a long time, even though my team got their ass kicked. So,
yeah, feel that.
how do we, for the listeners out there who know that Nick and I are Clemson and Notre Dame fans, do me a favor, just real quick. If you could just like the video to give me like at least a little bit of an ego boost, that would be huge because damn it, I need it right.
Yeah, just like something to smile about, you know? Because if I'm being honest, after Clemson had to play a noon game, so I'm watching the rest of the slate fucking slumped. It was 50 degrees outside. I was just like, this is brutal. I was down in the dumps. There was nothing really to get me out. But you guys could definitely help by liking and subscribing. You know?
Yeah. Let's do Clemson first, I guess.
Okay, here we go.
That was fun. It's very difficult because for 90% of teams in the country, 2 losses is a hell of a year. Like going 10-2 is a hell of a year. But Clemson has won the ACC title, like 9 out of the last 10 years?
I think even more maybe, but yeah.
It's so to get 2 losses this early and 2 conference losses, right? Like the Duke game sucked doubly because it's not like LSU has a loss, but they lost to Florida State, so it was out of conference, whatever. But Duke having 2 conference losses, it's now an uphill battle to get to the ACC championship game because they don't have divisions anymore. So, like,
I don't think it'll happen.
It's brutal. What are you thinking right now as a fan?
Well, I went into the game, thinking this is the biggest regular season game for Clemson in years, maybe a decade.
Yep.
For partly that reason of the sense of, we're still like, some people are probably saying that we were killed by Tennessee or Notre Dame last year, and we haven't been a college football powerhouse for a while. But I think for Clemson fans, we were like, if we win this Florida State game, like we're still at the top.
Yeah.
And of course, if we don't lose that Duke game, but lose to Florida State, we're still probably at the top. But 2 conference losses. 2 losses in total. Clemson's had 10 wins every season since like 2011, right? That's no longer a guarantee. It's actually going to be really impressive if Clemson does get to 10 wins. So I really think right now, I think Florida State killed us. Like we died. We fell off the ivory tower officially. And not that we can't get back, but this is going to be a weird feeling for me just going through the season like I'm a fan of like Iowa or, you name it. Some team that's just, decent, but that's all, right? Ole Miss is a good example where it's just like they're not, you can't get yourself excited for postseason college football this year if you're a Clemson fan. It's just so frustrating, though, how we lost both games, Like, we beat ourselves. I don't know if you would agree, but...
Turnovers killed you. I mean...
Turnovers, it's the fact that Clemson's turnovers aren't just turnovers. They're, like, catastrophic.
They are the worst kind of turnovers.
It's tragic, like, next-level steroid turnovers. In the Duke game... Even in the Tennessee game against, in the Orange Bowl.
Yep.
Like, our last 3 losses have just been, drive down, get into the red zone, and then crumble and, fumble away the ball. Sometimes it's returned for a touchdown. missing field goals is absolutely brutal. Like, like great story, but missing a 29-yarder, man. Like, I could have made that kick.
Yeah,
Like,
that's tough.
fucking
After
A. And we win the game
just,
if he makes it.
bro, they absolutely were. They were choking on that man the first 3 quarters. Like that's all the announcers talked about for 3 straight quarters. They just sucked him off, and then fourth quarter came, and that was tough.
The 29-yarder.
That was tough.
Dabo. Well, some people are saying Dabo has like, he has Garrett Riley sort of locked in to calling Clemson type of plays. I don't necessarily think that's true. But that screen call on 3rd and inches in overtime was so brutal because I thought that's why we hired Garrett Riley, to fucking avoid that at all costs, because that's what beat us up with TJ. And that ruined that. Like, after that play, I was like, I know what's going to happen. We're not converting. And so, yeah, it's just like, I guess it's nice that the comment sections that I'm looking at and stuff aren't saying like, oh, Clemson fucking sucks. They're saying, well, Florida State's overrated because they lose if Clemson had a kicker. It's like, well, yeah, like that's true, But all in all, yeah, it's been a lot of thoughts have entered my brain, and not a lot of them have been good. I guess that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Clemson is they've entered a situation where Dabo did things a certain way, and he was really damn good at that. And college football's changed a little bit. Like, the transfer portal and NIL are a very real thing. And I think the difference between what this Clemson team had and the Clemson team that competed for national championships had was they had some dudes on the outside. Like, they had the T. Higgins, they had the Sammy Watkins, and they had the
Mike Williams,
D-Hop, right? And the Mike Williams, right? That, like, they had guys on the outside, and they don't have that. And I think part of what, like, when you looked at the game plan going into Florida State, like, they were very prepared to give Will Shipley the ball 25 times, whether that was throwing it to him, like handing it to him, whatever. Like, they were going to get him the football. And I think that at the end of the game, they didn't have a guy that they could go to that wasn't Will Shipley. And college football, like, it's gotten very similar to the NFL, where, like, you can't just rely on a running game anymore. And that got him. And, like, when you looked at, like, Clemson should have gotten out and tried to get a transfer wide receiver this offseason. They didn't. You know who
Coleman
did?
Wanted to come to Clemson.
Florida State did, and they fucking got him. And guess what? He's a fucking man.
He beat us, and he wanted to come to Clemson. He was like, Clemson's my top choice, and Dabo's like, well, no, I'm not doing it.
Yep.
And like, I do think Tyler Brown, who's a freshman for Clemson, looked pretty good in this game. I thought Cade looked actually like
he looked okay. Like he looked
fine.
He was not the reason they lost that game.
Right. Well, maybe if he could sense pressure at all, he doesn't get fucking walloped on that play, right? Because, like, I think a different quarterback might get sacked there, but not like
obliterated
feet, right?
Yeah.
Antonio Williams, who's probably our best receiver, he wasn't playing.
He was out. Yep.
Right. So that hurts. I saw a lot of man coverage slant routes from the outside that Cade, I think that was kind of new, how often we were attacking that. And it worked pretty well. Like, we'd run to 3rd and 5 and then convert a slant and then just methodically drive down the field. But it's, again, the turnovers and the missed kicks, like, you have to score a touchdown. And I haven't seen enough of that to be confident at all in our ability to do it. But to speak of the transfers, again, that's another thing I was thinking about going into this game was, like, if we win this game against a team that kind of is solidified in transfers, I'm pretty sure they have like 18 of them.
Yeah, they boosted their roster significantly between this year and last year because of transfers.
There's so many players on Florida State that weren't on the team last year that are making a massive impact on the team this year. So if we beat that team with no transfers, then maybe all of this hoopla is overblown and Dabo's system is fine and it's more of a coaching problem. But I do think because we lost, I think I'm waving the white flag that yes, Dabo has to adapt, or else we're just going to keep falling. And I don't know if I trust him to adapt. I don't know.
And I'm going to be honest, you look at, and that's future state. I think Dabo will be fine. Like, Dabo's a good coach. I think they will figure it out.
Yeah, I agree.
But looking forward this year, you play Syracuse at Syracuse this weekend. We'll talk about that game.
Yeah. Well,
you have to go into Coral Gables to play Miami. That's gonna be tough. Now, the good news is it's off your bye week. However, still going to be a tough game. You get Notre Dame at home. You get North Carolina at home. And then you have to go into Williams-Brice Stadium to play South Carolina at the end of the season. Yep. Like, those are all games where Clemson will have to show up. And
yeah, there are 5 more games that are losable games for Clemson, which to even think about going 5-7.
That won't happen. They will make a bowl game.
Imagine the fact that it's even.
If I'm you, I'm hoping for 9-3. If I'm you, I'm hoping for 9-3.
Yeah, and it is also spin zone. Those are 5 games where you could actually go out there, win, and in impressive fashion, and finish out 10-2. Maybe make the ACC championship. Maybe actually look at the end of the season and be like, we figured it out. We're fine. Obviously, that's best case scenario right now. I don't have that belief. And part of me doesn't even really want it to happen unless I see massive changes mid-season.
Yep.
Because if we end up going 10-2, how am I I don't think I can go into next season and be like, well,
you almost want them to take a punch now so that they do something, that they adjust, so that they change, that
right. If we're already 2-2 in September and the season's over, right?
Yeah.
Might as well just get fucking beaten and battered and become a media cop out and just oh, Clemson sucks now, blah blah blah.
Yeah. This was a program building year. This is different.
Yeah, hopefully I can say that next year, but it's too early to know what's going to happen. Obviously, because again, these 2 losses are Clemson beating themselves, in my opinion. The people that didn't watch the Duke game or aren't college football, elite, ball knowers, are going to say Duke blew out Clemson, but Clemson was the better team in that game. Clemson, I've never seen anything so catastrophic. We already talked about it before, but that was an abysmal red zone efficiency display. It was the worst in all of football in week 1. So, yeah, we beat ourselves. We could be 4-0, but we're not. And we'll just have to deal with it, see what happens, I guess.
Yep. So allow me a little bit of time here to, wallow in my sadness.
We'll cover your despair. I want to start just by asking the question of, where do you think, how are you feeling about this season as a whole for Notre Dame? Even after, because that's a loss that I don't think punished Notre Dame that much.
Yeah, so we lost by 3 on the last play of the game to an Ohio State team that I think is ranked 4th in the country right now. I'd have to look, but
3rd maybe, but yeah.
Yeah, they're a damn good team. And in terms of this season, I don't think it matters that much. Right, we could still absolutely go 10-2, or 11-1 is still certainly in the cards. This wasn't a loss that I was devastated by how we, you know what I mean? There's some losses where it's oh, that was the worst loss of all time. This one was certainly not that. That being said, I think the worst part is it's the same old Irish. And that is the worst part, because Notre Dame has had the stigma that year after year we cannot beat the elite caliber programs in this country. And I know that we have back-to-back wins over Clemson. I get it. And
Clemson's no longer elite, I fear.
But even still, one game we won, Trevor Lawrence had COVID, and then we won the game last year, right? In what a lot of people consider Clemson to be a down year, right? This was a chance to beat one of the marquee programs in college football. We haven't beat Ohio State since World War II,
Yeah.
It's
I was so confident, dude.
It's
like,
insane.
I know you were too, but
I
everything was pointing towards a Notre Dame win, in my opinion.
And it just sucks to when you have. I was texting a buddy of mine during a timeout towards the end of that game, and it was after we had stopped Ohio State to get the ball back, and like we had a chance to put the game away. And when I was talking to him, I was like, we have to go out and win this game. We cannot not lose it. You know what I mean? We cannot play to not lose. If we do not go out and win this game, we will lose it. Like that, I've seen too much Notre Dame football to know that that's exactly what was going to happen. And the offensive play calling it was all right on that last drive. The sack put us in a tough spot. We ended up having to punt. It is what it is. I'm actually okay with how the offense handled themselves on that last drive. The defense calling the softest fucking pansy 3rd and 19 defense I've ever seen. Letting Kyle McCord throw the ball. Like, you can't rush 3 guys against an Ohio State quarterback with Ohio State's weapons and expect to be successful. All right?
Yeah.
That's number 1. Number 2, having 10 guys on the field the last 2 plays of the game.
Yeah.
I don't give a that's inexcusable from high program level football. It's inexcusable. That is, we can't have that. And I understand, like, Freeman was like, oh, we couldn't afford to take the penalty. You know what a penalty is from half the distance to the goal from the fucking 1 yard line? It's 6 inches, dude. Take the penalty. At least then you have another guy on the field. That I don't understand. I do not get. Because it's not.
I understand if it was like 3rd and goal, you don't want to take it with a minute left. There's no time left.
Fun fact, when you rush another guy onto the field, you have 11. The only penalty would be if he was on our side or on Ohio State's side of the field. It would have been an offsides. It's not like it's a personal foul where they get an automatic first down. Like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's like a legal substitution, I think, right? Like
which is also correct me if I'm wrong, college football fans. I know you'll let me know in the comments. However, I don't think that's an automatic first down either. And either way, the clock was what was
matter though if it's
because the clock was the problem.
The fucking clock, yeah, exactly. So if you substitute late and you realize there's 10. Yeah. I think Freeman probably didn't even realize there's 10.
No.
Of course, Ohio State runs right there, like they notice it. Like I can't imagine the feeling in McCord's stomach when he sees like there's only you're missing your left defensive end, and he's like, oh my god, he snaps the ball and scores there. And then the prevent defense is pissing me off all over. It has been for like 5 years. The Bills against the Chiefs, remember that in like the incredible AFC divisional game 2 years ago where 13 seconds left, Mahomes gets the ball and the Bills are like, all right, we're just gonna like play man up 6 deep.
Yeah,
and like they just run seam routes.
You can't do that shit,
Clemson
man.
Clemson did it too. Clemson did it at the end of the first half. Florida State drove all the way down, tied the game up, and Dabo in his halftime, speech. Dabo was actually pissed at our defensive coordinator all game, I think. But he was like that, like running a 3-man rush at the end of the half there was so fucking brutal. Like I can't believe we did it. Yeah. And I'm like, well, don't let that happen. I don't get it. Bad defense. I agree that you can't really blame the offense on that last drive because that game was so great in the sense that it was just true hard-nosed.
Hindsight is 20/20, right? And obviously, at the moment, it sucked. But god damn it, was that a good football game? Like, the defense. Like, it's not that the offense looked terrible. The defense made plays, right? And there's a difference between like. We'll talk about some of these, like Iowa's offense is dog shit, but like there are like that, those offenses were playing like okay. Like there weren't sloppy turnovers. There weren't a ton of bad penalties. It was just like Ransom, the safety for Ohio State, played an unbelievable football game. Like the way he was coming into the box, coming down on those runs, making stops on short yardage situations. It was beautiful to watch. And then when the offense needed some drives, Notre Dame went 80 some odd yards, right? Kyle McCord drove the ball down the field at the end of the game in order to get a score. The environment, the atmosphere, everything, it was, as a neutral fan, that's the beauty of college football. It was two storied
amazing.
programs who played great football.
It was almost 0-0 at halftime, which would have been amazing. And
Yep.
I was watching the game. I texted you. I was like, this is the best 0-0 game I've ever seen. Like, this isn't the Nebraska versus Minnesota 0-0.
Yes.
This is both offenses actually look good, right?
Yep.
But, like, they're getting to, like, a
Coaches made
situational-
we made some ballsy calls going for it on fourth down. Both teams
It's like
did.
analytics stuff, though.
Yeah.
Where it's like situationally, you probably should go for it on 4th and 1
Yep.
here at the 40. And stop after stop. Ohio State goes for it on 4th and goal. Stopped. Like, there's just so many of those. Both the teams had over 350 total yards of offense. Like, that's standard. That's a standard
Yep.
game. That's like you would expect the score to be like
27-24 instead of
28-24.
yeah.
So crazy.
Yep. All right, let's get into the other games. But before we do, I am going to let my dog inside because he's barking. So give me
I
a
hear
sec.
your dog. And yeah, we'll do a little cut ski. Or if you forget to cut, I'll just do a little ad read here. If you looking to go to a game this weekend, download SeatGeek. If you've never downloaded SeatGeek before, hop in.
I kept the door open to my.
Code Smash Hit Sports,
Oh.
and you can get to any game, $20 off. It's a good deal. Last week probably would have been a really good week to do it, but this week's got some good games that we're about to go over right now.
Yeah, tickets are a little cheaper. Love you cutting a promo while I went and
Yeah.
let the dog
I
in.
forgot you couldn't hear, but I was like, while you're gone, I'll just do an ad read.
Hell yeah. We love a good ad read. Yeah, we're I'm trying to work on some other things too, but yeah, use promo code SeatGeek. They treat us well. I have to go see, I haven't checked the stats, but I know our fans got us. You say hi to Brooks. If you guys are watching the video version of the podcast, if you listen to the audio version, go subscribe to the YouTube, be a friend, tell a friend. But that being said, let's get into the rest of these games quickly because there were a lot of high impact games that happened on this slate. Let's talk Colorado because obviously that's kind of the big news story is Deion and what he's done. And this is if you've watched college football all year long and you're in the weeds and you listen to the show so you're well informed, you knew this was going to happen. You knew this was going to happen. And that's okay. Like Colorado is okay. They still are probably going to end up like 5-7, 6-6 and be unbelievably ahead of schedule in their rebuild. Like this is okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no. If the people that got, fooled by the media craze, like I don't blame you at all because it was so aggressive, and it's not like Colorado looked fraudulent necessarily because we were all we didn't know what to expect with Colorado. I thought they were going to be 6-6, make a bowl game.
Yeah.
But like I don't think I thought they were going to beat TCU, right?
No.
Like, I thought the Nebraska game would be a lot closer. So they are a much better team than they should be. But again, last week I think I said Oregon was going to win 56-10.
And
like,
you're about right there.
Watching that game, like there was no surprise at all because Oregon is so much more talented. And it's probably for the best. We don't have 30 Instagram posts from ESPN and Bleacher Report a day for Deion and all that.
The Deion hate isn't towards Deion. People think that it's towards Deion, and like I can understand because they're like, "Oh, I'm so sick and tired of hearing Deion talk shit." Deion's always talked. Like this isn't new to Deion. What's new is having ESPN post about it 30 times a week. That's what's new.
You're just seeing it way more than you should or need to.
Yes.
And like now we're getting Taylor Swift all over our feed because she's dating Travis Kelce. Personally, I'm a fan of it. I love the content. But a lot of people are very upset, just because it's like, what, we don't fucking care.
Yep.
Get it off my feed because it's every other post right now, which admittedly, the NFL should not be focused that much on that.
But it's getting views. They're doing. I mean, the social media interns are doing what they got to do. But
listen, I'd be doing the same thing. I would.
Facts. The other side of this game that not enough people are talking about. Oregon is one of the best teams in the country. This Oregon team is very, very legit. Bo Nix is a certified Heisman candidate. Like, this offensive and defensive line are good. Like, this is what Dan Lanning has built over the last, couple years, is a team that can get after it. And they got after it. And this is like, all this game has told me is that the Pac-12 is going to be so much fun at the end of this season. It's going to be so much fun.
The whole conference schedule for the Pac-12 is going to be amazing.
Yep.
But yeah, for the people that didn't watch Oregon, Colorado, and kind of just like check the score, and you're tuning into the pod, Oregon was up 35-0 at half. Oregon easily could have put up 70. Like, similar to the Dolphins-Broncos game, it looked like
what a game.
I know. It looks like the practice sessions that you would normally see on like a Thursday, right? It was just, let's run our scripted plays and just see what happens. And every one of them was a success for Oregon in the first half, at least. Bo Nix looked like he had superpowers. He was getting anything he wanted, just picking apart the defense. Colorado looked very undisciplined, very unprepared. And so, yeah, you see 42-6, you're like, Oregon dominated. I think that game could have been a lot worse for Colorado. And that is more of a testament to just how good Oregon actually is. Because, yeah, I mean, to beat any team by that much, you got to be talented. We already saw him put 81 up earlier this year. I think they are flying under the radar solely because of Washington and USC being slightly ahead of them in the same conference.
Yep. Yep. I agree 100%. Moving on to a little SEC football. Bama, Ole Miss. Ole Miss is still Ole Miss. I don't have anything to take this is still, Lane Kiffin is still Lane Kiffin. Ole Miss is still Ole Miss. Bama is still Bama. This isn't an elite Nick Saban team, but they'll still probably go 9-3 or 10-2, and they'll have a shot to win the SEC West at the end of the season. And that's.
Yeah. Well, I actually think as of right now, I would have them ahead of LSU, which we'll talk about next. But
Yep.
I think they're probably the favorite to win the SEC West. And I was saying last episode, I think Bama. Well, I thought Bama was going to lose to Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like a shot in the dark gut call, and not that it was it looked like
you weren't alone in
call
that
for a while. Like, Ole Miss was playing well. I don't regret that take. Alabama's defense just really looked strong towards the end there. But I don't think Alabama's going to lose another game the rest of the year until, the SEC championship game. I think they beat LSU, and so yeah, I think Bama's just fine. Even though I don't like them this year. It's just how the schedule is going to shape out for them.
Yep.
So if you're a Bama fan, you're probably on the same wavelength where it's like, you have hope for the season still, but you're probably not. You probably know this team isn't it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Bama fans are disappointed, but they're still a good team, but obviously they're not. I don't think they're national championship contenders, which for Alabama is disappointing. LSU and Arkansas. LSU and Arkansas struggle, or LSU struggled with Arkansas, not Arkansas struggled. This might have been I didn't watch this game, to be honest. I had to go through, watch the highlights, little 10-minute
There are so many
YouTube
games
clip.
on. I didn't get a chance to watch this either.
Yeah, but that being said, after having watched, the big plays, look the box score, this LSU team is exactly who I thought it was at the beginning of the season. They were never the fifth best team in the country. They never were.
Yep.
But that being said, they're still good. And
yeah, they are. They are. They have a lot of talent as well.
Yeah.
Malik Neighbors and
Yes.
Thomas Jr. What's his first name?
I'm not sure. The other wide receiver?
Devin, maybe, but I could be totally off on that. But they had 270 yards, 4 touchdowns on 13 receptions. Jaden Daniels looked good.
Yep.
I think it was more like Arkansas was just playing really well.
Yeah. They were feisty.
I do think LSU didn't. I don't think they played poorly. And they were able to sneak out a win. I thought for a second they might have lost that game, but yeah, it was more so just a good game. That
Yep.
I'm not saying LSU didn't disappoint me that much this week.
I agree. I think that there's some good teams. The next one, we got to talk about Penn State, man. We got to talk about Penn State because what they did to Iowa is shameful.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real here. 31-0. Okay, a lot of people. I made a TikTok video about my thoughts on Iowa and that offense, and like I did my AP polls. Like Penn State with a really great win over Iowa, like shutting them down like that is impressive. And I have a lot of people in the comments being like, "Well, it's Iowa. Iowa sucks offensively." I don't give a shit who it is. When you hold a team to 76 total yards, 4 total first downs, 0 points, a conference opponent. Like this isn't just nobody. The last time Iowa was shut out was 22 years ago. Like this isn't something that just happens all the time because this team sucks. Penn State is good. And I think the other side of that, because 31, like giving them a 31-0 goose egg does not happen if your offense also doesn't consistently stay on the field, which is what they did against a great Iowa defense. Penn State's legit.
No, 100%. I was going to say the same sort of thing, that like Iowa's offense is so shat on that you're like, oh, well, whatever. That's just what you get when you play Iowa. It's the Big Ten West for you. 76 total yards is abysmal for a Power 5 team, regardless of competition. I think Iowa had like 11 total possessions or something, and not even. They had it's like 6 total possessions or something like that. It was like crazy.
Ridiculous.
They were 1 for 9 on third down, right? Like 7 punts, 4 fumbles. They had the ball for 14 minutes total.
Yeah.
Penn State had the ball for 46 minutes, and Iowa had it for 14 minutes. That's like, I've never seen that much disparity. I had no idea Penn State's defense was this good. I know they have dogs, right? Like they have Kalen King, they have Chop Robinson, a couple other pieces on that D-line. But I didn't know they were like this. Because I was like, oh, Iowa needs to score points for Kirk Ferentz. Maybe I'll take the team total over. That was like 10 or 9.
Yeah.
I was like, that's so low. I ought to take that. I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah.
Because, wow.
Crazy.
Wow.
You have in the notes here, best year for defenses in a while. I want you to elaborate on that because I agree, but I want to hear your thoughts as to why that is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we obviously 2 years ago Georgia had like one of the highest defensive efficiencies we've ever seen. And you go back to like the mid-teens and you have like Alabama and Clemson who are just rocking like 95, 96 out of 100 on their efficiency ratings.
Yep.
But this year we have like Penn State, Texas. Texas is number 1 in defensive efficiency right now. They're like 92.5. You have Utah, who looks like a juggernaut defensively. You have Michigan, who's playing great. You still have Georgia. You have Ohio State and Notre Dame that looked really good. There's just a lot of teams that I think their defense is better than their offense. And a lot of those teams are really high up in the rankings. And I think it's probably, it's been a while since we've seen such domination in that sense.
Hey, you love to see it. And it's like, again, it's good. It's not bad offense. Like it is just some damn good defense.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of these teams are just stacked on that side of the ball. It's crazy.
Yeah. So the records for last week, I went 8-4. You went 6-6.
Not my best. Not my best.
Hey, it is what it is. It happens to the best of us.
All right, bounce back.
You got me last week.
I went bold.
But let's jump into these week 5 predictions, and there are some good ones. Not the slate that we had last week, but there are some really, really good games. A lot of home dogs, which is
it is crazy. Like the better team, quote unquote, is on the road this week in almost every game.
Yeah.
Besides Texas and Tennessee.
Yep.
Like if you're, a gambling man, you're going to be having to take a lot of road teams to win, which you don't see that often where the road teams just dominate. So. Yeah.
So could be a really could set up a lot of upsets. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it could be a chaotic week. Definitely.
But
watch out for that.
Let's start with There are a couple games on Thursday night, nothing really to write home about, like Middle Tennessee, Western Kentucky could be fun. But Friday night, we get a ranked matchup in what should be a really awesome game. You have Utah going into Corvallis Friday night, 9 o'clock kickoff. Oregon State is a 3-point favorite over Utah. We'll see. There were some reports early last week that Cam Rising was expected to come back. That ended up not being the case
I was one of the people reporting it
for Utah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I'm done assuming he's going to come back. I have no idea when he's going to come back.
Yeah, and that could keep this game very interesting. Either way, these might be the two best defenses in the conference. This should be a really hard-nosed, fun football game.
Yeah. The Oregon State-Washington State game last week was fantastic. We had DJU didn't even look good, which made me happy. I also had Washington State. That was one of my favorite picks of the week.
Yep, and
so
you nailed
I'm happy that worked out. But I was definitely impressed with the Oregon State running game because I feel like Utah's front seven has sort of been they get the stamp of approval so far this year. They shut down Florida aggressively. Florida has two really good running backs. They shut down Carson Steele and UCLA. They've been dominant. But Deshaun Fenwick, Damian Martinez, two really good backs for Oregon State. I think they're going to run heavy. I honestly, I mean, I don't know what to expect because I think that's going to be the tail of the game is who wins that battle, the running backs, Oregon State or Utah's D-line.
Yep, it should be a lot of fun. All right, so let's get into Saturday's games. A game that had a lot more hype before Colorado ended up losing. Noon kickoff, USC Colorado. The total for this game is 73.5. There's going to be so many points. You get Caleb Williams, Shadur Sanders, Dion, Lincoln Riley. This is going to be a star-studded game. The spread on this one is also 21.5, which is what it ended up being for the Oregon USC game. I expect this game to go pretty much the same way. I don't see anything. I think there might be, some more points scored because I don't think USC is as good as Oregon defensively, but I mean, it's same story.
Yeah, I do think that's a suspicious line because I can't imagine anyone taking Colorado after what happened, right? Especially like we were just saying, Colorado could have lost by 60 in that game. You know what I mean? So I was expecting the line to be higher. That it makes me just a little bit suspicious. I'm not opposed to taking Colorado 21.5. Probably just going to stay away. I do like the over. We'll talk about it later. But, it's always weird to me when these, West Coast teams play at noon because it's just so early for them, That's 9 a.m. on the circadian rhythm for USC. That's crazy.
Really, really interesting. The public is a heavy on USC. 69% of the bets. However, that line has moved down from 24.5 to 21.5. Reverse line movement. So keep an eye out on that one. I might throw a little bit on the buffs here.
I think it's a bit early right now. I don't know how many people are throwing their bets in quite yet, but I do expect, regardless, people to be taking USC, and knowing that it moved already is pretty good.
Yeah.
That's definitely. Yeah, maybe I will sprinkle that in a tease in my mega teaser. I'm not surprised by that though. So good to know.
For sure. All right, let's move on to I think a matchup that actually kind of means a little bit here. In the SEC East, Florida at Kentucky, and nobody has talked about Kentucky. Nobody said anything. Kentucky's quietly undefeated. Florida has obviously the big win over Tennessee, but they have that loss to Utah. Kentucky, on the other hand, has quietly just won the football games they needed to. They haven't played anybody really. They beat the brakes off of Akron, Eastern Kentucky, Ball State, and Vanderbilt, but
they haven't played anybody.
Kentucky's a 3-point dog in this game, I think.
I think it's a 3-point favorite. They are, right?
Let me take a look. But either way, this should be a really tight game. I think we get to learn. Yeah, they are a 3-point favorite. My apologies. I think we get to learn about these teams a little bit here, because I do like the fact that I think they would be just about an even game on a neutral field. Like this is, in Kentucky at Kroger Field, and I like the Wildcats in this one. I
know
think
you do.
I think they win. Like I don't believe in Florida. I still don't believe in Florida.
Which is fair. This was the like we were talking when we were doing our SEC breakdown video, and we were going through every team schedule, just sort of trying to get a grasp, give a prediction for every team, and I think we both had Kentucky starting 4-0 because again they didn't have anyone to play.
Yep.
I think I actually had Kentucky finishing 5-7 because their schedule does get brutal.
Yep.
But like Florida, I also had being worse than I think they actually are. I think I had them going 5-7, and both these teams look like they're probably going to make a bowl. We'll see. I definitely like Florida. I do think Kentucky's overrated. I think Florida's proven to me that I was wrong about them. Kentucky has not done that. And if I'm being honest, like I was tracking that game against Eastern Kentucky, who is like an bad FCS team. It was tied at half, and like it was just like gross and never. I mean, you can't forget about how bad they looked in the bowl game last year when they scored 0 points against Iowa. Vanderbilt stinks. You can't have any takeaways from that Vanderbilt game because Vanderbilt stinks.
Yep.
So you're right in the sense that I'm excited to get to know what Kentucky is. I like Devin Leary, but I'm definitely going to take Florida in this. Especially if I'm getting points, I can tease that easy.
Fair enough. We differ there. Moving on to another SEC matchup, Texas A&M at Arkansas. This game is going to be really interesting for two reasons. One, Texas A&M has the opportunity to be they still are, but they could end up being 4-0 atop the SEC West, and you just kind of like you. It's just like, whoa, how did they get there? Like
who? Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Well, 4-1 though, right? But 4-0.
Oh, yeah, sorry, 4-0.
That Miami loss, but
yes,
undefeated in conference.
Yeah, and it's one of those where like all of these SEC West teams have a loss. LSU has a loss, Bama has a loss, Texas A&M has a loss, and I don't hear anybody talking about Texas A&M. The other thing that's really interesting about this game, so Connor Wegman got hurt in the game against Auburn last week. They do have veteran Max Johnson as their backup. It looks like Wegman's day-to-day. Don't know if he's going to end up playing in this game at all. So if you are betting on this game, I am not. But if you are, keep an eye out for whether or not Johnson or Wegman's going to play. That may, determine what you think about it. Either way, I'm taking Texas A&M to win this game. I think they are the better team, better roster. Like Evan Stewart's a great, great player for them at the wide receiver position. I think Texas A&M has more dudes. So give me the Aggies here.
Yeah. When we were doing our game picks just on the on our doc, I was flipping back and forth. I think I changed it like 5 times between Arkansas and Texas A&M, just because I really do have this guttural feeling that if Arkansas can do what they did against LSU on the road and ride that momentum and like having that like taste of a win ripped away, and now you get to play at home against, arguably a worse team. I don't know. I feel like I want to take Arkansas, but I agree with you in the sense that Texas A&M is getting kind of slept on. I'm interested to see what the public decides from a gambling standpoint. But like Texas A&M is really good. Like they absolutely, especially, well, they get Alabama next week, so it's possible that this is sort of a trap as well.
Yep.
I'm with you in the sense that I don't think I'm going to touch it. Because there's just so many variables, so many things going through my mind. This is just like it's a twister in my brain. But for the sake of the game picks, as of right now, I guess this is me making it official. I'm going to go with Texas A&M.
All right. It's locked in.
Locked in as far as what you see on Instagram. Yeah, it'll
Fair.
be A&M.
And that's what matters. Go follow us on Instagram. We've been really up in the content game. We've both been posting more.
Oh yeah, posting a lot.
Clemson at Syracuse. We differ on this game. I was surprised that we differ on this game. Syracuse is a 7-point dog at home. Over under is 52.5. Syracuse, quietly another undefeated team after knocking off Purdue, Army, Western Michigan, and Colgate. So they haven't played anybody, and they play Clemson. I think Clemson smacks them. I think that I think Dabo rallies the troops here a little bit, and I think they beat them, and I think they beat them pretty handedly.
As much as I would love to agree, Syracuse always plays Clemson really well. Even in 2018, my freshman year, we played Syracuse. We were down late in the game. Trevor Lawrence got hurt. We needed Chase Bryce to come in and will us to a victory that had like multiple fourth down conversions. If we lose that game, who knows? Maybe we don't make the playoff. We don't beat Alabama 44-16. And then last year, Syracuse played us really close. We needed Cade to come in and replace DJ. Syracuse beat us when we had Kelly Bryant. They always play us close. I think the Syracuse team is better than some of the teams that have played us close because Garrett Schrader, I think, is playing really well this year.
He's played so well.
Yeah, they have a Rondé Madsen, who's like son of a former NFL receiver who looks like a dog out there. Good running game. And again, it's in Syracuse and Clemson. This isn't like a real logic thing because I'm also kind of just taking Syracuse to metaphorically light a fire under my team because I'm fucking mad at them.
I love that because they do watch.
Yeah, they listen to this podcast obviously, and I'm like, no, I'm taking Syracuse because you don't deserve to have me take you. But I also think that there's something to be said about, your season, being done. And then, or at least like to some people on the team, they're going to be thinking like, what's the point?
Yeah. They're looking ahead to their combine and the draft. And
I came to Clemson, or I came back for one more year to win a natty. And now we're 2-2. And yeah, it could absolutely be just like a trap. I wouldn't even be that mad because we were talking right before we started recording. I'm not opposed to Clemson sort of having like a mega down year, where we don't even come close to 10 wins and we're playing in a really bad bowl. And it's just like this massive, massive wake up call that I think I don't know. But I'm going to rock with Syracuse for less logic and more YOLO. Reasons.
Hey, sometimes you just gotta say fuck it, we ball.
I won't be betting on it though, obviously.
Moving on to South Alabama at James Madison. JMU is a 3-point favorite at home. This game should be really fun. Like, South Alabama's been up and down. JMU has been rock steady. This game should be fun. I'm taking JMU. Like, this could be one of the better games on the slate if you just like football.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know if Vegas even knows what to do with like the spread, just because South Alabama's been so, like, they've been riding the seesaw so far. They struggled against a bad team in week 2, then they go to Oklahoma State and dismantle the Cowboys, and then they lose at home to Central Michigan. They're 2-2. I think they played Tulane week 1, that's a good Tulane team. That game was pretty close. I went into the season with South Alabama as one of my sleepers. I thought they could compete for a New Year's Six Bowl. That's sadly out of the window, but I don't think that it's because they're a bad team. JMU, I watched the entire JMU UVA game. We talked about it. We actually had it in our game picks. That was a big game for UVA.
Yep.
Because obviously it's their first home game since, the fatal shootings of 2022. And JMU was able to pull out a win there, but they were losing by double digits in the fourth quarter. Like, they had to fight for a win against UVA. UVA's freaking garbage, right? They're 0-4. And my thing is, if Oklahoma State and UVA played each other, I think Oklahoma State, whoops them.
Yeah.
And South Alabama whoops them, and JMU only beat UVA by 1. I know football doesn't work like that. You can't think like that. But I am, as far as game picks, going to go with South Alabama for that reasoning.
Yeah, I'm rocking with James Madison. It's also one of my best bets, James Madison -3. They've looked great to start the year. This is only their second home game, so they've played 3 games on the road to start the year. I think that fan base is pretty rowdy at JMU, and
they're becoming more rowdy.
Yeah, so I'm going to take this one. I don't have a ton of numbers on it. I like JMU. They've treated me well. They covered last week. I'm taking them again. Moving on to another SEC matchup. I don't understand the line at this game. I get that it's at Auburn, but Georgia at Auburn. Auburn's only a 14.5 point dog. If this line even momentarily gets to 14, I'm going to jump on Georgia.
Listen, so when Georgia was playing South Carolina, we talked about how Georgia has started every game really, really slow. Like they're basically beating teams on having a mass excess of talent and experience.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that they're going out and beating them. And we saw that with South Carolina. They're down 14-3 at half, and they managed to out-talent them. And, they can rotate D-line guys, and if someone gets hurt, it's no biggie. But the thing is, Georgia has not been tested in the slightest yet, as far as like schedule goes. And I'm not shocked at the line, because I think that Vegas probably knows something that I'm sort of thinking myself, that Georgia isn't actually that good. Now, I don't think they lose to Auburn. And I actually don't think they lose all year, because their schedule is the easiest schedule in Power 5 football history. But I'm just not shocked at the spread. And I'm going to go with Georgia, obviously. Part of me is like, just go crazy, go off the rails. But Auburn's not good enough at all. So,
yeah, I think they might be the second worst team in the West. But moving on to Kansas and Texas, a ranked matchup between Kansas and Texas. Nobody in college football discourse right now is talking about how Kansas is playing a ranked matchup against Texas this weekend. That should tell you everything you need to know about what Lance Leipold has done in Lawrence. This is unbelievable. Like, this isn't like shocking. Kansas looks really good. Like,
they do.
Jalen Daniels is a good college quarterback. Now, Texas wins this game. They win this game handedly. I don't think we get one of those weird-ass overtime thrillers where Kansas beats Texas in the weirdest game you've ever seen. I think Texas is better than that this season.
Yeah.
This could be a good game. I don't really think it is, but like, just props to Kansas for this being a ranked matchup.
So last year, Kansas, we kind of had the exact same script for Kansas, in which they started the season. People were like, well, it's fucking Kansas football. They stink. And then they start 4-0 and they get ranked, but they hadn't really played anyone at all. And then they get absolutely dismantled by the majority of the Big 12 and end up, obviously the difference is they didn't have Jalen Daniels because he got hurt.
He got hurt.
Which is a massive difference. But I am expecting more of the same in that regard. Of Kansas, struggled with Nevada. Nevada's probably the worst team in the Mountain West. Now they have to go into Texas. I don't think Texas is like some people are saying they're going to be asleep because they have Oklahoma coming up next. But I think the fact that Kansas got ranked, I don't think they're going to be asleep. So I think Texas smokes them. I do. Yep. I think they win by a lot.
BYU also could have won that game. They kind of played soft at the end against Kansas. Like, they could have won that game.
Yeah, I really don't think Kansas is a top 25 team. I think they're good. No. They're fun, but they're not top 25.
They could make a bowl game. I wouldn't be shocked if they made a bowl game.
I think season. They probably will.
Another SEC matchup. This is actually one of the better SEC matchups of the weekend. 13 LSU going into number 20 Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a 2.5 point dog, over under 65.5. So there's going to be a ton of points here. Lane Kiffin and Brian Kelly. And I feel like I've heard just enough people on the internet being like, LSU's going to win this division. Alabama's down. This is we're primed for an LSU Georgia conference championship game, and that is exactly when Brian Kelly shits his pants. Is as soon as people start talking about his team, he shits all over himself, and that's what happens this weekend. I'm taking Ole Miss money line. Jackson Dart goes for like 400 on their ass.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, clearly those have to be LSU fans that you're seeing all over social media, because I can't imagine other people getting this excited about the chance of LSU winning the West. But I was considering taking Ole Miss. I do think I want to go back to my roots, and by that I mean, like, before the season, a lot of my predictions, have been sort of true. Like and like they were last year. Like, normally, you don't, in the course of the season, you're gonna let things impact you in negative ways, and you're gonna get straight off the course of what you thought was true.
Yep.
And I do think that Ole Miss got overrated through the course of this season, and it got me a little bit. I picked them to beat Alabama. That was foolish. I don't think Alabama's that good. I really think LSU is the much better team. I think Ole Miss is like a 7-win team, and that's what I had at the beginning of the year. Not like LSU is like a 9 or 10-win team. I don't care that it's on the road. I think the public's going to be on Ole Miss. Give me LSU. Yep.
Moving on to a really good game. Georgia State is having a historic season. They are undefeated. Like, they're playing really good football. And
yeah.
Troy is coming into Georgia State. Georgia State played a phenomenal game over it was on Thursday night against Coastal Carolina. Or was it Friday night? Is it weeknight? Thursday?
It was Thursday.
Yeah, they played Thursday night against Coastal Carolina. One of my followers DM'd me. He's like, hey, this is the lock of the weekend. Like, you're taking Georgia State against Coastal. Like, they're going to smack them. They smacked. So shout out him. I hope he's listening to this, because, dog, I'm riding with Georgia State again. Dogs. Like, I like Troy. They're a good team. But give me Georgia State, because I want to ride the magic. You know what I mean? This feels kind of like how Coastal Carolina did a couple years ago, where, like, they just had a little magic with Grayson McCall. Like, you felt good. I feel good about Georgia State.
Yeah, I mean, they came out of nowhere, right? Georgia Southern as well, I believe, is undefeated.
Yep.
Like, all these Georgia teams are doing really well this year. But, yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not paying attention to Georgia State, Rhode Island, or UConn. I do like that Charlotte team. I think is underrated, because they just have to play so many good teams, and they're new to the FBS. But they have a new coach, Biff Poggi, and they played Florida. That was one of my locks last week.
Great name, Biff Poggi.
Biff Poggi, right? But Charlotte plus 30 against Florida. I was slamming it last week, because I do think Charlotte's a good team. And Georgia State beat them by 16 in Charlotte. Then they go beat Coastal in Coastal. And now there's this hype back at Georgia State. I don't know anything about the fan base there at Georgia State. Literally no clue. I hope they go out, though, because Georgia State's never really had a football team worth cheering for. And now you're 4-0, coming off 2 big wins at home against a team that I think you could ask anyone, any casual college football fan, and they know Troy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Troy's just like the Troy Trojans are a staple group of 5 team in college football. So this is like a big game, and the spread's pretty much even. So, I'll be riding the Magic as well. Confident.
Hell yeah. Squad bet here.
What's their mascot? The Panthers?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Sco Panthers.
Sco Panthers.
Go Pan.
We get College Game Day. For a second week, it's a Notre Dame game, which was kind of surprising to me. But number 11, Notre Dame, going into number 17, Duke. And heading into, if you listen to our Notre Dame preview episode, I was concerned about this game, especially if we beat Ohio State, because I thought, we're going to, be all happy that we beat Ohio State, and then we're going to go into Duke and lose, because Duke's solid. They were 9-3 last year. Turns out they're still really damn good. Riley Leonard, a really damn good college football quarterback. Like, Mike Elko is going to be getting a ton of phone calls after this season.
Oh, yeah.
Duke's a 6-point dog, and I saw this in the depths of Irish Twitter, right? So I don't know how credible this story is, but because I'm in the weeds, right? And we love the internet. That being said, in the depths of Irish Twitter, this is the story that I have seen. Marcus Freeman brought the team into the stadium, made the entire team and staff rewatch the final 4 minutes with the stadium speakers at full blast, reported by students as the loudest they have heard the stadium from their rooms. If they aren't focused after that, ... So apparently Marcus Freeman made them watch the last 4 minutes of that game in the stadium and just... If that doesn't get you off your ass, I don't know what does. I don't know what does. So give me the Irish by 50. But in all seriousness, I do this should be I'm kind of leaning the under in this game. 2 really solid defenses. 2 teams that don't turn the ball over very often. This should be a really good game, actually. I'm taking Notre Dame to win it, but this should be a really good football game.
Yeah, I agree. Duke sneakily, just because obviously they play Clemson and then no one else, but they're crushing the spread right now. Every game, Lafayette, they beat the spread by 15 plus. Northwestern, they beat the spread by 10 plus.
Yep, the 3-1 ATS. Yeah,
okay. So then maybe Northwestern they didn't, but I think they were up big in that game.
Yep.
And then Duke UConn, I'm pretty sure Duke was minus 16 or something going into that game, and I remember looking at it what am I missing here? Why isn't that UConn's 0-3? Why isn't this a massive spread? And of course, Duke wins 41-7. So I think there's some disconnect here. I can't put my finger on it, but it's either Duke is way outperforming their talent, and in that case, I don't know how long that can last, or they're actually this good and Vegas just doesn't believe it. But they are getting some respect here at home against Notre Dame. The spread's only 6.
Yeah. If you look off of their star ratings for their recruits, they're absolutely outperforming their talent. But I think that's what happens when you have a well-coached team.
Outperforming expectations of their talent.
Okay.
Yeah. Or I don't know, because I mean, you could have a 3-star who is actually way better.
Yeah.
But then even he's playing even better this year.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with Notre Dame as well, just because I think this Notre Dame team is too good to drop the Ohio State game and then drop to Duke, have 2 losses in September like Clemson. And then, again, I do think that USC ends up beating Notre Dame, and maybe I feel like Notre Dame's good enough to be they deserve 10-2 from the talent I've seen.
Hey, you got to earn them. You got to earn them.
You got to earn them. But just for logic's sake, I do think USC gets you guys. So you have to beat Duke here. Especially like you said, I didn't know this about the stadium and all that, but I already was thinking this is such a big bounce back week. And this is where good coaches get paid is get your team up for a game like this. And Marcus Freeman's a little bit unproven enough to where I think he's going to treat this so seriously.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly he is. But he's going to go into this this is the most must-win game of my career. So Notre Dame has to win. I think they win. I do think they cover as well.
Yep. Last game of the slate, South Carolina at Tennessee, and this line is Tennessee minus 12.5. Now I'm thinking it's a little trappy. South Carolina, they just beat the piss out of Mississippi State. They look solid. Tennessee has not looked outstanding.
Trappy in the other way, in the sense that you want to take the underdog, but you should probably take Tennessee.
Yeah, I think Tennessee wins.
I agree.
In Neyland.
I do think Tennessee's getting underrated. I still like them as a team. I like the talent they have on that roster. A lot of people are saying they're just straight up bad, but they're not. Obviously, Joe Milton isn't the guy we kind of thought he could have been. Not that we thought he would be, but he could have been.
He's not the guy we thought he could have been is the perfect way to put it.
Right. And South Carolina is a fine team. Spencer Rattler's playing pretty well. Our bet is still in play here. Vandy and South Carolina now both have 2 wins. We'll have to see what happens. But I think Tennessee handles him. I'm not going to touch the spread. It's because again, we saw what South Carolina did last year to Tennessee. But yeah, revenge game factor as well. Give me Tennessee.
Fair. Yeah, I didn't even think about the revenge factor either. That's going to be huge. All right, a couple, just real quick, a couple hot takes before we get into our best bets. This one is from Jack on Instagram. Fresno State going undefeated. I don't know if you've looked at their schedule. That's absolutely in the cards. Like Fresno State has
crazy, dude.
They have an easy schedule the rest of the way out. Like it's all Mountain West teams.
Do they play Air Force?
No.
Wow.
No. So they lucked out there. It's Nevada, Wyoming. Wyoming at Wyoming is going to be tough. That's going to be a tough game. But they get a lot of their more difficult games at home. They get they get Boise State at home. Like UNLV hasn't looked bad. They get UNLV at home. At San Diego State at the end of the season is going to be a little tough. But like this is a team that absolutely could go undefeated after winning their 2 Power 5 out of conference games against Arizona State and Purdue. Turns out neither of them are any good, but like that's doable.
Yeah. I don't think I'm not going to buy it. Although it does look very doable, I'm not going to buy it. I like Wyoming there. And what throws me here is that Eastern Washington game at home.
Yep.
That you needed overtime to win. And going into the season, like I said, staying with my roots, I didn't think Fresno State was like going to even be an 11-win team. I think I had them at like 10-2, 9-3, because they lost Jake Haener, and I just wasn't expecting them to be this good. I think they're having sort of a Duke thing where they're maybe outperforming a little bit, and I think they'll drop to a Wyoming or a Boise. Maybe a weird one to San Jose State. We'll have to see, but I'm not going to buy it. Sorry, follower.
Fair.
Not buying it.
Another interesting one, the Pac-12 will have 2 college football playoff teams. If you had told me this at the beginning of the season, I'd have been stunned. But now it's like
Yeah, it just depends on how. I almost think it's like that is what should happen, and the only way it doesn't is if they inevitably beat themselves up.
Yep.
But my last 3 weeks of doing my final top 25 predictions, I think I've had USC and Washington in my college football playoff because I really like Washington, and I'm still riding that USC prediction I made at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I mean,
I like that take.
Yeah, I don't hate it one bit. And then the last one that I think is really, really interesting, there's a couple in here that are like just Clemson fans, just like I end it all before the end of the season, which is
that's actually me, I think, bro.
It's brutal. But the one is Missouri is a legit team. They'll have a shot to compete in the SEC East.
No. Nope.
I kind of disagree.
You tell me why. I don't.
Okay, I think they have a chance to end up with the second best record in the SEC East. I don't think they have a chance to beat Georgia. And I don't think they have a chance to, win the conference. But I do think like there's a world where Missouri ends the season with a better record than Tennessee and Florida and South Carolina. Like that's not out of the realm of possibility. Their schedule plays out like fairly, not like they get LSU at home. They get South Carolina at home. They get Tennessee at home. They get Florida at home. Like they get a lot of these teams at home. Like it's not like it's a hot take, but I don't think it's absolutely impossible.
I don't think I'm still kind of anti-Missouri. I don't think they're really good. I think I ranked them this week, but didn't really want to. I think I have them. I actually might not have, but I think because I ranked Kansas State, I had to rank Missouri. But Missouri, if you look at like efficiency ratings and any of like the power index stuff, not necessarily FBI because FBI is crazy, but Missouri's bottom of the SEC. They're like 11th, I think, in overall efficiency. They're behind the likes of Kentucky, South Carolina, Auburn, Florida, Tennessee, and then,
That's fair.
the rest of the bunch. And so I just think regardless of schedule, they're going to start trading off good games with bad games. And now we're in conference play where you're not necessarily like guaranteed to, succeed the same way as non-conference. And Memphis was playing Missouri pretty close for a while there. I had Memphis last week, didn't work out, but yeah, I think they're a 7-win team still to me in my eyes.
That's fair.
Yep.
That's totally fair. All right, let's hit our best bets quickly. I already talked about James Madison. I'm taking Louisville, NC State under. This game is Friday night, so make sure you get it in before Saturday. Louisville hasn't played a great defense yet, and IU has held some teams down, and IU held Louisville to 21. I like Plummer, but at the same time, I don't think NC State's a good defense. NC State's
and a bad offense too.
Yes.
They're a bad offense.
So, and that's the other thing is NC State's offense is bad. NC State has gone under this number in 3 of 4 games this season. So I'm taking the under 55.5 there.
I love that. Wow.
Missouri Vanderbilt, I'm taking the over 56.5. Vanderbilt is 5-0 to the over this season. Missouri is 3-1 to the over this season. I think Missouri does have a good defense, but at the same time, I think that's what people think is oh, Missouri's defense is good under, and they've been going over the number. So I like that. And then I'm taking Oklahoma minus 20. Oklahoma is 4-0 against the spread. Iowa State. Yeah.
Are they really?
Yeah. Oklahoma is 4-0 against the spread. I thought I was they didn't cover against Cincinnati, but they did. They ended up covering.
They did.
Yeah, Oklahoma's 4-0 against the spread. Iowa State still stinks. And I know that I think a lot of people are going to be thinking, oh, they have Texas next week, so they're going to they're going to be looking ahead. I think Oklahoma is I think they're dialed in. I think Oklahoma is dialed in. I don't mean that. I'm not going to say that there's some world-beating team and that they're going to be really good and in the playoff race at the end of the season. I don't think that. However, I think this Brent Venables team is on a goddamn mission because they heard all of the shit. They have been shit on all offseason. I think they're ready, and I think they smack Iowa State.
I like that. I kind of agree. Oklahoma is every year you get a couple teams that just look locked, they're just locked. They're more locked in than other teams, and Oklahoma kind of has that vibe this year. So I agree. I'll just rip my favorite bets. I have 3 this week, which is a lot less than normal, but didn't have a great week last week, so we're going to take it easy. Texas, Kansas under 62. Kansas averaging 38 points per game.
Yep. Texas
averaging 35 points per game. And I feel the public's just going to look at it and be the public that follows college football is looking at Kansas as kind of a really good offense and not a great defense. And they're hitting the overs left and right. I don't think anyone's really considering or even knows that Texas has the best defense in college football right now and has the elite speed that can totally beat Jalen Daniels. So I think this is a game where Kansas, like I said earlier, just kind of gets whooped.
Yep.
But Texas, I don't think is the run up the score. We haven't seen that this year with putting up 60, 70 points or anything. Not that I think that would happen, but 62 is a high number. So yeah, I like the idea of it finishing at 35-14 final score. Something like that makes a lot of sense to me.
I like it.
USC Colorado, I am going over 73.5 half because I want to have fun watching it because that sounds amazing.
I don't hate it.
Have that over.
I don't hate that at all.
Right. And I don't care if 90% of the bets are on the over or if the number's too high. Last year I took USC over 81 in a game and it did not hit. And I was like, damn it. But
it's the only game the over didn't hit all year for him.
I know. It was this fucking blows. But I really do think that there's something about that spread that Colorado got this week that is confirming my thoughts that Colorado's going to make this a decent game and there's going to be a ton of points. But I do think that USC has one of the best offenses in recent memory, and Colorado's defense is not competitive.
No, no, it stinks
at all. They're just not there at all yet. So when you have that versus a really good defense or a really good, like one of the best offenses ever, but that best offense ever is going to let your good offense put up a lot of points, you're going to hit the over. Like, we might see 100 points. And then I like Cal -12 versus Arizona State a lot. Arizona State played USC close. Arizona State is still a bottom 5 team in power football. They almost lost to Southern Utah. They lost handedly to Oklahoma State, who's not good. We know Oklahoma State's not good. And they got shut out at home, like brutally shut out by Fresno State. I think it was a case of the get-ups last week with USC, where it's like, this is our Super Bowl. We're gonna like throw out all of the stops for this game, and now they're gonna go play at Cal, and 12 points is just not enough because Cal's good, man. Cal, they outgained Washington in total yards. They had 500 yards, or I don't know if they outgained, but they both were like right neck and neck, and then they actually had more first downs than Washington, and Washington's a great team. So, yeah, I think Cal smokes them.
All right. Love it. Love it. Make sure you guys follow along Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. Nick During the Day and Smash Hit Sports for me. If you like this, make sure, like the video if you got here. That's the best way to support us. We're not going to ask you for any money or anything like that, but a like, a subscribe, a share goes a hell of a long way. I appreciate you all, and we'll see you in the next one.
See ya.